watch that WrestleMania. What could you have found a better place than Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lincoln Financial, The Rock, and I said this a couple minutes ago. Who, if you close your eyes and you had an epiphany when it came to Jason, how do you think Jason Kelce will spend his retirement? In a wrestling ring? Would you be off? I mean, was that not set up for him? It absolutely was. That was a great moment. I talked to The Rock too before the show. You know what he said before I bring Angelo on? He goes, "Hey, I'm changing into a heel now. We've had The Rock on. You guys know this." And I go, just take a shit on Jalen Hurts, man. Don't go nuts on you. And you say anything. So he did. He took my advice and he went crazy on him. All right. A man who was just inducted into the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. He had a great honor also by Barrett Sports a couple weeks ago. And I guess in retirement, you get rocking chairs now and trophies and all this stuff. Let's bring Angelo Cataldi in, the sports Bible of Philadelphia sports and really how to do a sports talk radio show. Everything you need to know if you are a young, aspiring broadcaster or you're a Philadelphia sports fan. This is all you need to know right here. Angelo, congratulations to you, my friend.
Well, thank you, Dan. I got to tell you, this retirement thing, I don't know, man. 2 doors
it ain't working for you, right?
I'm in Chestnut Hill, Philadelphia, and 2 doors up from me, there are a bunch of retirees in the backyard looking up in the sky, and it's cloudy. and they're waiting for the eclipse, but it's cloudy. So
hey,
I said, I ain't doing it. I'm not an old person yet who gets excited about dumb stuff like that. I got other problems. I got teams collapsing left and right in this city.
Somebody asked me the other day, Sills, what do you make of the eclipse? I go, first off, I'm not really a tree hugger. And secondly, I'm not one of these guys that sit around and kind of worry about any other thing. I worry about what meal. If my pasta is runny, I kind of worry about that. If my wife's sauce, you didn't cook it long enough. You know what I told you about getting the same tomatoes? And some guy's sitting here telling me, don't look up at the sky. And I'm like, why would I look up at the sky anyway? Oh, it's the eclipse. I go, unless it's going to rain money on me, I don't care anything about that. Isn't it funny, Angelo? When you get older, you they try to shift your attention towards things that don't matter to you.
I got to tell you the truth, though, Dan. When you texted me yesterday, I said, I'm coming on during the eclipse. And you said, I read the text to my wife and she said, well, I guess he's an idiot like you. I said, I don't know. I think Dan is like a brilliant guy.
You tell Mrs. Cataldi that's a merit badge. I am so honored that I was called in the same room with that. I'm very excited about that. Very excited. All right. Let's get into something. Oh, by the way, congratulations on the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. I mean, so many great people in that city have gone into that thing. Players, broadcasters. I mean, John Facenda, I would imagine, is also in that thing too as well. What's that mean to you, Angelo?
Well, they called me and I was surprised because I was not, in the 33 years I was on the air in Philadelphia, I was not a guy that was popular because I ripped a lot of people. In fact, I looked at the list of the people going in with me and I ripped many of them, right? Like I know I ripped Chase Utley, Ryan Howard, Rod Brindamore, Andy Talley. I used to say, if you're that good a coach, why don't you try Division I? Let's see how you do that kind of stuff. So it's probably going to be awkward. I'm not, maybe. So here's what I got. I got a plan here, though, Dan, that I think will really get a little attention and make people laugh. I'm going to attempt to get that crowd when I'm introduced to boo me the way we booed Donovan McNabb at the 1999 draft. because no one ever gets booed at a Hall of Fame thing. I want wall-to-wall booing. I want McNabb to see that I can take it better than he could. And Hall of Fame completely ruined by everyone booing. I go, that's okay. No
Oh
problem.
my God. Well, maybe what you should do is have Nick Sirianni, if he's around, introduce. Hey, I'm thinking this, Angelo, since you brought the solar eclipse up, I'm wondering if that maybe saves his gig. I'm thinking not. But hey, I mean,
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I've been doing a lot of, after I did the book tour, now I'm doing a lot of like classroom tour. And I was at a symposium last Friday at Villanova. And on the dais with me was the head of the law department, Andrew Brandt, who's a regular on my show.
Oh, yeah.
He's a brilliant guy. And then there was Brian Westbrook, former Eagles running back, and Howard Eskin, right? Eagles mouthpiece, right? So, and I'm saying nice stuff about him, Dan. I'm not stirring up any trouble, right? I don't need more problems. I gave a lot of credit for paving the way for the other sports talkers in Philadelphia. But then I did mention when we were talking about how nowadays it's not as rough as it used to be. And I went, all I could tell you is with 3 games to go in last season, I would have called for the firing of Nick Sirianni, because he lost the team. He didn't know how to fix it. It was embarrassing. And Eskin jumps into the fore. He said, that's ridiculous. He never lost the team. It had nothing to do with that. It was a bad roster. And and I went, wow, that bad roster was 10-1 at one point. And the coach even then didn't acknowledge the problems they were having. And the bottom line on this whole thing is that I'm watching what's going on with the Flyers right now and their coach, John Tortorella. And they are flopping and choking every bit as badly as the Eagles did. The last 2 sports franchises in Philadelphia have completely collapsed at the end. But Tortorella, in going down, Dan, he publicly pointed out the players that were not giving him enough. He benched his captain, Sean Couturier, for 2 games in the middle of it to try to wake him up. Meanwhile, Sirianni never for a second indicated that there was any problem while they were doing that. And he kept putting Bradbury out there to get killed game after game after game. And I said, Sirianni is the #1 reason that team flopped. And Tortorella, I'm giving him no blame for it, because that team had no roster. They didn't belong in the fight. He kept them in it for 70-some games. And it's like, and Eskin's giving me a hard time. I'm going, this is the problem. If it was a different, if the fans were more outraged at what had happened at the end of the Eagles season, Sirianni wouldn't have survived. Sirianni, I honestly think if I was still there, I might have had a chance to convince the city that he was the problem. But he's coming back. So next season, bad.
That's such a great way to look at John. I know John very well. I covered him when I was in Tampa, Angelo.
Okay.
Let me tell you what he did. I mean, after they won the cup, the next year, Nikolai Hobby Bullen wasn't playing well. He sat his ass down in a playoff. And the guy goes like this. He goes, I won a Stanley Cup last year. And here's John Tortorella. Well, you ain't winning one this year. Not the way your ass is playing. This guy sat down Marty St. Louis. He put down Vincent Lecavalier. He put down all these guys. And these guys had just won a cup. The one thing about John, he is going to read you the riot act and put you on blast no matter who you are. If you can tolerate it as an organization, the one thing you'll always know about him, you know where you stand. And there lies the difference between John Tortorella and Nick Sirianni. You never know where you stand because John, he doesn't know where he stands with the organization.
And it's here's what it is from my perspective, because I look from the fan point of view. Sirianni never gave a damn to respect the fans, to give you a shred of actual information on what was going on. Meanwhile, Tortorella's out there and he goes, and at one point he ripped one of his players and he came out a couple of days later and he said, I screwed that up. It wasn't, I shouldn't have done that. And he's so open and honest. You can tell when you're in the throes of a collapse, you want the coach to be fuming, to be frustrated. And that's what you got from Tortorella, honesty. None of that from Sirianni, none whatsoever. And I'm just, you know what? Tortorella, I think I know the president of that Flyers franchise, the guy I used to work with, Keith Jones.
Oh, love Keith.
He has tolerance for Tortorella. He understands the value of what Tortorella's doing in trying to hold people accountable. Something Sirianni never did and never will. Never will.
Never will. I want to throw this at you here. And I brought this up just a couple minutes ago. I want you, and I'm going to throw a scenario that I heard when it came to Vic Fangio, and maybe that this is a pivot change with the organization. So check this out. This is like 9-10 days now that Hassan Reddick has not received a contract extension. When Joe Mixon was traded to the Houston Texans, they ripped up a deal, gave him a brand new 3-year contract. When Snead went to the Titans, made him the highest paid defensive back, brand new contract. And when Stephon Diggs went to the Texans, they voided the last 2 years, which meant this: hey, we're putting you on a 1-year deal because we're going to draft a wide receiver in the draft, and you're a stopgap guy.
Yep.
So my point is this: why in the world would the Eagles not just let Javon Hargrave had one year left on his deal, Angelo? He played through it, signed a $20 million a year deal with the Niners. Why? They had the leverage. Why wouldn't the Eagles just say, we're not paying you more. Here's $15 million, and you're going to play. The Jets are going to do this, Angelo. They're going to pay the guy 1 year. He never got a pay raise. They're going to draft an edge rusher, the kid Verse from Florida State, or the kid Dallas Turner. They're going to move him, still get a compensation pick of a 3rd round. They're going to have no harm or no foul here. And the Eagles don't get anything for 3 drafts from now. I was told this: Vic Fangio, he came up and he knew that Hassan Reddick didn't like the way he was being used. He even made a comment in the locker room. If you remember, I only listen to the people upstairs and what they tell me to do. You know, I didn't think much of it then, but now I'm like, holy cow, wait a minute. He's got a problem with the way they're being used on the field. When Fangio knew and Howie knew that he was not willing to drop in coverage, that's when they got Huff on the first day of free agency. Vic Fangio has more say in that team than what Sirianni does. I mean, really, this whole mess, it just shows you the lack of power Nick has and how much power Howie has.
That's all entirely plausible to me. Are you smart to give Fangio that much power?
No. What's he done?
He underperformed in Miami and alienated part of his roster, right? Now you hand him the keys. That tells me you're more lost than ever. Because, first of all, they can tell me whatever they want. Reddick was the best player on that defense. And any time that Matt Patricia or Sean Desai had him dropping back in coverage, it was a stupid decision. It was dumb. It was taking your best pass rusher and taking him out of the equation to do something he's less adept at. Why would you do that? So Reddick, again, this is the same thing I was saying about A.J. Brown a while back there. These guys that were publicly bitching about the way they were being used, they were right.
They were.
They were right. Brown should have been targeted way more than he was. And you could see it now. They're completely revamping the back end of their wide receiver core because none of the guys they would throw the ball to could catch a damn thing. And now you're seeing they're going to bring in Bryce Huff and think he's going to give them what Hassan Reddick did?
No way.
He's not. It's a stupid plan. But it was, Dan, there was definitely, before they did any of that stuff, they knew they were committed to getting rid of Reddick.
Yep.
Because after they brought the new guys in, that offer wasn't so great they had to take the offer. They could have just said, play it out. You got one more year. Let's see what you can do. And they didn't. So that had to be a decision that was made before all the moves were made. And that had to come from somebody on the field. So you're right. It's probably Fangio.
That's right. I think Fangio
not the way to run the team. Fangio is not that great.
No.
Don't give him all that power.
I completely agree. How about this one here, Angelo? Do you believe that this football team heading into this season can overcome the losses of Hassan Reddick, Fletcher Cox, and Jason Kelce? No. When you're talking about the players that they have and the leadership, there is some leadership, but do you think they can overcome the loss of those players?
No. To me, the best performer on the offense was probably Kelce, and he's gone. So you got your best performer on offense gone. Reddick is gone, and you're bringing in guys that are not as good, not as experienced, not as good leaders, and you're asking them to do more. And what did you improve? You got Saquon Barkley. That's a nice, fancy little addition to your team, but it didn't make you any better. All right, maybe you'll pick the blitz up once in a while. That'd be nice, but it doesn't forgive all the other problems that happened. There, Dan, it's so sad to be as old as I am and know ahead of time that doom is upon us.
Oh, yeah.
That a bad season is about to happen. Because most of the people of Philadelphia would not want to believe that. They want to have hope every year. This team is not going. I'm telling you.
I agree. No, I'm with you on this thing here. And
I'm not a gambler. I am looking forward to when the official Vegas number over/under victories for the Eagles is posted, because I don't know what the
10.5.
It's out.
Yeah, 10.5.
It's 10.5. Honey, we're rich. Honey, we're rich.
It's 10.8.
10.5.
10.5.
10.5. 10.5. Are they insane? What? People are going to bet the over at 10.5?
10.5.
They won one game the last 2 months. 10.5.
I have to say 10.5 is the number Vegas.
They got a drug problem in Vegas. Oh my God. Dan, you made my day. You made my day. I'm about to call my banker. I'm gonna make a one of those $1 million bets. That's the easiest money ever.
Hey, okay. Hey, let me throw this one at you. So I had to ask, and I did. You know, I threw this out to everyone. I'm like, so everyone hates Dak Prescott in Dallas. Who was his coordinator for 5 years? And they'll go Kellen Moore. And I went, what makes you think that hire is going to be a hire that's going to help Hurts when the guy did what for the postseason for the Cowboys and Dak? You're going to get a better version of Dak Prescott with Jalen Hurts. What makes you think that hire, you know, Angelo, the more I look at these hires, Vic and Kellen, when you're telling me, well, they're an upgrade from Brian Johnson and from Sean Desai, well, we're going from the gutter. And we're going from the gutter, and you're saying, well, we clean the gutters. I mean, why am I supposed to be optimistic that he's going to make Jalen Hurts better when Dak Prescott was an ultimate failure in the postseason?
See, now that I got time on my hands, I play out scenarios like this, Dan, and I want you to think this through for a minute. So Kellen Moore takes over the offense, and Nick Sirianni's a figurehead. The offense struggles early, which I think is pretty much inevitable, all right? Now Nick is going, well, my neck is on the line. I got to take back some control.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
You know he's got – if things go awry early, Nick's got to try to save his own neck. So now you've got a tug of war between the offensive coordinator brought in by the front office, stripping the head coach of all that power on offense. But you got Nick saying, no, these are desperate times. I'm moving back into this. I'm getting more involved. Oh, you got chaos. You're this. You have. They don't even know who to listen to at that point.
Do you think Nick would go to management if they started 2-4 and say, hey, or do you think last year did so much damage, Angelo, with the whole Desai and Patricia deal that they'll say, no, we'll make that call?
He will. I'm guessing here. He'll just do it and wait for Moore to go to hit the bosses and say, this isn't what I signed up for. I have full authority. Now, this is it. Nick, this is survival mode now. Nick barely escaped the noose before any of this. When this goes bad, and I see it, no other scenario makes sense to me. Nick will attempt as a last-ditch thing to reassume control, and then you're going to have a mess. You're going to have a mess. And, at that point, somebody's going, maybe I still don't think Sirianni survives the whole season. I don't think he makes it.
Oh, you think he's a Chip Kelly victim where they take him out somewhere?
I think he's out before the end. And if they win 10.5 games, right, I will not only shave my head, I will be decapitated. I will have somebody sever my head from my shoulder. Nick, Dan, there is zero chance they're winning 10 or 11 games. It's not possible. What are these people doing? This is it's like free money. And I don't bet, but when you see the number I put on that,
Angelo, I want to put you in sports talk mode now and kind of go away from the Eagles for a second. And I want to ask you, have you ever in your life, I can't remember me ever in my 35 years or 34 years in sports broadcasting, opening my show with women's basketball. I mean, I have never in my life. You want to hear the stat that UConn and Iowa game outdrew every college football game except Ohio State and Michigan last year. It had the highest numbers of anything on ESPN, non-football related. That's even World Cup.
Right.
And Angelo, have you ever seen anything like what you watch? I mean, I'm assuming that you tuned in. I tuned in and watched. I've never watched more women's basketball in my life. How shocked are you?
I did very little but ridicule women's sports.
Me too.
The time I was on the air because it wasn't.
It was a non-starter.
It wasn't compelling to me. And this year, it was like they scripted it to get you interested. They had that lunatic coach from LSU, Kim Mulkey. I couldn't stand that woman. She was obnoxious. So I wanted Caitlin Clark to beat her, and she did. That was great. Now we got UConn and that horse's ass. What's the guy's name? The guy that runs it?
Auriemma.
Auriemma, right? Auriemma. I used to go on the air. I go, wow, this Auriemma, he wins every year. At what point will he try coaching the men?
I always said that too.
Freaking good, right?
Right.
I don't like that guy at all, so I wanted her to beat that. Then we get to the final, and now Dawn Staley is very popular at Philly. She's a great, great player and a terrific coach. Now I'm kind of watching more passively yesterday, but I'm watching.
I know.
And when they had that comeback late, where they hit a cup, my wife can't believe her eyes. She says he's cheering at a women's basketball game. Now,
incredible.
I doubt I'm going to follow up. I think this was a one-time thing for me. But I can't deny it pointed two things out to me. One, anybody can catch lightning in a bottle.
Correct. And
two is the men's game right now is boring as hell. I don't even give a damn who wins tonight. So the combination of the two, I think America cared more about the women's final than they will tonight about the men's final.
That's completely. I think you're dead on with that. Too.
That's crazy. You wouldn't have ever thought that could happen. But I'm with you. I watched it. I was involved.
I've never watched a WNBA game in my life.
No.
Do you think a WNBA team could make it in Philly?
Wow. If Caitlin Clark were on it, yeah. If Caitlin Clark were on it.
So they need a polarizing player on it for it to go.
Yeah. Or This is the thing. This is one thing about sports where it doesn't matter. If you can create a scenario, good versus evil, right?
Yeah.
Like that Kim Mulkey, she's such a loudmouth,
Yep.
brash, attention whore. Just can't get enough. Oh, look at me, look at me, look at my fancy outfit, all that stuff, and yelling on the sideline. So then you got this girl who's just incredibly talented, one of the best shooters you'll ever see. The women's version of Steph Curry. Good versus evil, you get sides. You pick. There are people always contrarian. They'll go with the evil side, but most of them will go, "Oh, I'd love to see her get beat," and that it works. Storylines are still a big deal.
Angelo, you know what? I think you and I would broach this, and I think you would broach this too. Every time I watched her play,
Mm.
I was thinking of Bird and Magic and
Mm.
West Coast, East Coast, black and white. I mean, you had America where maybe white fans had gone away from basketball
True.
because of the politics that have been involved in it. All of a sudden, you had people interested. And to me, it's polarizing. I'm a sports guy. Sports sells. It's sports media is a business. So when you have that dynamic like that, and you have polarizing stories, like you said, I'm not watching a college basketball women's game on a Tuesday night in February. I'm not doing that. But when you have storylines like that and you have media coverage and building it up, that's what makes I call her a needle mover. She may not be the greatest player of all time, but she's one of the most polarizing, and she's a needle mover. Those are the people that you cover, are people that move the needle.
This is why, Dan, you are as good as anybody in this country at this job, because the racial component in that and what was going on was right there. It was there. There were people, the South, which has a lot of redneck types. They all wanted that white girl to beat
Absolutely.
those black girls. There's no question about it. No, everyone's trying to tell you that wasn't part of this whole story, but it was. And it's not something any of us is comfortable with. We should be way past that by now. It shouldn't matter. But to so many people, it did, that it was a significant reason why there was that much interest in it. It was, if Caitlin Clark were a black woman or an African American, there would not have been the same level of interest.
She'd be another great player.
She'd be another great player, but that changed the narrative for a lot of people. And most of the media, the people that were doing the games, they did not want to go near that, because it takes somebody like you who is willing to, go into some sensitive areas. That's a sensitive area to go into, but that's what makes you great, because that was a significant part of what we were seeing. I'm sorry to say it, but it was.
But wasn't that, Angelo, part of the Magic Johnson and Larry Bird mystique? Because those guys, they had played in college. The NBA was on tape delayed. In '79, the Bullets and the Sonics were on tape delayed. These two guys come in, and still the highest rated game in the history of NCAA basketball is Michigan State, Indiana State. And there's a reason. You had the Hick from French Lick. You had the smiling Magic Johnson, Lakers, Celtics. Like you were talking about perfect storm, Angelo. Right. There's certain times in sports when you see the perfect storm.
Well, I am in no position to evaluate that part of it, because there is not a person who grew up in New England who hated Larry Bird more than me. as when you reference my book, The Bible, Loud, there's a whole story there of how he lied when I was just starting out. He just made up a story and then denied it the next day. But I had taped the interview, and he was, it's all in there. You got to read it.
Oh my God. I haven't got to that part.
I hated Larry Bird, and I ended up covering the Celtics when he was a star, and we never spoke one-on-one because of what had happened in this incident. Larry Bird, to me, was I can't tell you he's not a great player, but to
Not a
deal with
great
him,
person.
total horse's ass. All right, couldn't stand the guy. So in that argument, Magic was my guy all the way.
Me
All
too.
right, and but I guess that was part of it too. I never related to it that way because I hated Larry so much.
Oh, I was a Magic guy. Two last questions for you here, Angelo.
Yeah.
Championship wise, do you think an athlete in a team sport has to have a championship to be considered and in the conversation of being the greatest of all time? Or is it because, like, when you look at Barry Bonds, maybe the greatest left-hand hitter? I mean, obviously the PED stuff is going to play into your evaluation of all this. Or maybe Ted Williams, to go there. Ted Williams is probably the greatest left-hander without the PED stuff there that you could say never won a World Series title. I mean, do you have to have that on your resume to be considered the greatest player in your sport?
See, I can't be a hypocrite here. It shouldn't, because the superstar doesn't have control over the rest of the roster. Leadership, maybe he can help some, but he can't ordain whether or not they're going to be good enough to win a championship. But when I look at what just happened with Jason Kelce, the fact that he won a championship made everything different. All of these players from the 2017 Eagles team, it's different because they won that championship. So I would say put it in the plus column for the guy who did win it, but don't deduct points for the guy who didn't. Like, it's great that you did. You maximized your skill to win the ultimate prize. But if you didn't, I don't think we should be holding you accountable. So it's a plus, but not a minus.
You think Kelce would be looked at differently in Philadelphia if he didn't win that 17 title?
Somewhat. Not, I mean, he'd still be loved.
Would he be thought of as more like Barkley?
But not, you got to understand, not only did they win it, but the way he took over the rally and the speech and all that stuff, and the mummer's costume and all that, that added a lot to his appeal in the city. So he'd still be beloved. He'd still be, you know, Ring of Honor, Hall of Fames, all that stuff, but not to this level, because Philadelphia just doesn't win a lot of championships. And when we get one, those people, they take a special place. And maybe if we won more, it wouldn't matter that much. It sure does with 2 championships in 35 years.
Last question for you. Embiid, if you're the Sixers and they don't go anywhere, and I know he's been injured, of course, something else, is it time for Joel Embiid to move?
It's time to listen. It's time to listen, Dan, because you know, I was on a show a couple of days ago, and I said, you know, maybe this is how they win it. The Eagles won it when no one thought they would. They lost their quarterback. Maybe this guy getting all the rest that he has, coming back, looking good, totally ready for the playoffs. Maybe they run it now. Maybe they finally reach. I mean, Maxey is as good as he's probably going to be.
50 last night.
Lowry's going to help. Buddy Hield is going to help. They've got a lot of pieces now. If they don't do it, if they don't even get back to the conference final, you got to listen. He's not getting younger, and he damn well isn't getting healthier. And he would get you a lot. But
He would give you a treasure chest. If Anthony Davis, look what Anthony Davis's deal did for the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yeah.
Right now, the Pelicans look like they could be actually better than the Lakers right now. And so just think about what that could lead to the Sixers if they were to move somebody like Embiid.
Yeah. You know, what makes it a little harder is he's the last piece from the process. If you do that, you're erasing the process. And I think acknowledging failure. And that might make it harder. I don't know. Maybe not. But I would, and I've never believed that they should do this because he's a real special player. But it's getting to the point of diminishing returns. You almost have to listen now.
I want to sneak one last one in on you here. I want to Jay Wright. You think he should entertain that Kentucky job?
Oh, Jay Wright. I was at Villanova last Friday. They're still talking about it because since he left, the team stinks and the program is nothing like what it was.
By the way, that Brunson guy that they said that they didn't have any NBA guys on, he's the best player in New York they've had since Patrick Ewing.
Yeah, I don't know where people are getting that. All right, here's the thing. Should he listen? Yeah, to me, as a guy significantly older than him, he should not be retired yet. So he's a brilliant coach, right? Will he listen? I'm hearing nothing about him having any desire to go back. I think he wants to live off the great record that he had at Villanova. And, if that's what makes him happy, that's what he should do. That's what it's about. I just got to mention one thing. Dan, my wife's got to kill me because she's in charge of my website. We have a new, improved, revamped, totally brilliant new website at angelocataldi.com. Check it out. It'll give you, I just wrote another blog piece that should be up soon on the difference between the two collapses of the Eagles and the Flyers. And check it out at angelocataldi.com.
Make sure you tell your wife in closing here, thank you very much. Anybody who calls me an idiot next to Angelo, I can't tell you how much I love her.
She really, Dan, she really meant it. I even had her Google you. And she said, yeah, it looks like he could be an idiot.
Angelo, thank you so much. I can't wait to show this to my wife. Thank you, Angelo. I love you so much, man. Thank you so much
for all your
time. I appreciate it. Folks, don't forget the book. Thank you. Oh. The greatest in the business? Funny, I get text messages from people because I make people uncomfortable. Huh? James? Xander? Holy cow. The best dude in the country. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, James, you might as well get that ready because I'm going to hey, James, I'm going to be DMing you on that one. So I don't want to have to, but I'm going to. Holy cow, that's such a great honor. Being called that by that guy who was just inducted into the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. Oh, yeah. Holy cow. All right. As promised, hey, Twiz, I need you to do me a favor. Okay? If I go off into a tangent and I don't give you my 5 best players, did I do this thing yet? I have not. I have 5 players that I am circling, okay, that I want to see the Eagles draft. Philly 4x4, don't break your arm patting yourself on the back sills. Are you crazy? I'd put my arm in a sling after something like that. Look at Jason. There's a Philly Sports Hall of Fame. Hey, Twiz, just remind me. Oh, by the way, wait a minute. Maybe I should have somebody else do it because Twiz is on my shit list right now. He's causing problems with other hosts around the country right now. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know, Twiz. Maybe I'll leave that to you, though. Flexing, if you stop the damn spamming, you're going to have to help me, too, a little bit here. Oh, yeah. The Sixers and the Cowboys are in the same boat. Thank you, Sue. Where's Ed Reed at? Shut up, Twiz. Big Sills, do me a favor. Hit the like button. Don't forget, 4:30 Eastern Time. Our good friend Gary Cobb will join us. Keep it here, National Football Show.